2. Waiting for it to generate to go live officially. And then we are on for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, November 2nd. Let me pull up the stream on my phone because I need to get a second screen right now. And then we will talk with you good people here on this Monday, coming off another victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, Dave Bryan is here with me. Dave, how you doing?
Happy Monday. Busy day. Happy Monday.
Very busy day indeed. So a lot to talk about, a lot of questions here already from the chat. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys could like this, that would help. It brings more people, gets more visibility to the chat room. And if you want to have a guarantee of your question being asked, because we have gotten some really good number of people here in the chat the last couple of weeks, you can always super chat us, and that is a way to guarantee your question to be answered by Dave and myself. So let me know if you guys can hear us okay and all that fun stuff, and we will get started. So, to start things off, John Pennington asks, Dave and Alex, do you think the Steelers can do contracts the same way KC did to keep their core players, and what's going on in the secondary in the middle of the field giving up big plays? You take the first part of that question, Dave, with the contract situation and how that compares to Kansas City.
Look, it's all about the guaranteed money, right? And the cash flow. The things that a couple of those players did, Kelsey and Chris Jones
yeah.
and obviously Patrick Mahomes, with the guarantees that are built in there versus the cash flow and upfront money. That's not normally the way the Steelers do business there. They usually only guarantee for non-quarterbacks. The only fully guaranteed money usually is just a signing bonus there. And it would really go against what the Steelers do philosophically from a contract standpoint to do anything along the lines that that the Chiefs did. Now, do they have the ability to do it? Obviously yes. But look, here's the thing that it starts with too. You're already talking about guys that probably re-signing that aren't currently under contract. For next year. In the case of them, they have a guy on a franchise tag. I think in Jones, they had obviously Mahomes still on his rookie deal, and who was the other one? Kelsey still, I think, had a year left on his. So there was some room to play with. When you're talking about guys that don't have any years left on their contract, they're wanting that cash now. On top of there. So I mean, could they? Yes. Will they? I would bet that they don't.
Yeah, just not the way they do business. And to the second part of your question is kind of an extension of what Mutated Genome also asked. And so John's asking about big plays, middle of the field, and Mutated Genome says, when the D plays badly, poor communication is often the excuse. Will you explain what is meant by communication breakdown? Where, how does it occur? The chain of communication is Butler to Green Dot, then what? Is someone not getting their assignment or what? It's hard to pinpoint specific issues on communication bust. They can be a variety of issues. It can be a change in the game plan, a change in approach, how we normally call things, but this week we changed something up and someone just making a mental mistake, or the offense making an adjustment and a signal not getting in. It's not being communicated well enough, or somebody just misses a signal. It's really hard to give you a great answer on that, MG. For John's question about the big plays middle of the field, again, it goes back to some of those communication busts, and they're awfully difficult to pinpoint exactly who is to blame and why they're happening at the rate that they are happening. Mike Adesso, hi guys, thoughts on McLeod playing many more snaps on offense than Washington, just a game scripting or signs of Washington tumbling down the pecking order? What is your thought? Because McLeod played, I think, at least 4 more snaps than Washington did, and Washington played only 10 snaps total, I believe.
Yeah, I think more than anything that's an indication versus the whole Claypool versus Washington thing. I think also McLeod a lot better, to play in the slot in some situations there. Obviously, you're going to use him in certain situations where you would use him in the pre-snap motion. Probably, would be a better choice than to use a guy like Washington, smaller, shiftier, faster kind of guy to handle that as well too. But I mean, I think it was kind of look, it hasn't gone unnoticed these last couple of weeks. Kind of the changing of the guard, if you will, between the snap differential between James Washington and and Chase Claypool. I still think Washington is what he is, and that's a Z receiver. Claypool obviously is that too, but we have seen Claypool move around a little bit more, big slot, if you will, on top of it. So look, there's going to be times throughout the season where Washington's going to play more snaps than he did, but it was a little bit eye-opening to see his snap total that low, and for a guy like McLeod to be as high as it was.
It was, especially for all the four receiver sets they ran in the second half of that game. But I think the point you touched on, the slot work that McLeod is getting,
Right.
you're on the outside, it's Claypool and Deontay inside, it's Juju and McLeod. So that's probably where it's coming from a positional thing, skill set thing. Obviously, McLeod's going to be better suited inside. But there's ebbs and flows in Washington. We'll have his games the rest of the season, no question about it. Mike also gives us a shout out, Dave, for putting in the work on Sunday night, watching Jets defensive film, our favorite thing to do, and talking about the Avery Williamson deal.
We joke about that, but there's nothing else that Alex and I
sure.
would rather do than turn the film on. Obviously it just wasn't the direction that we thought we were going to go. We like to have a little fun with it. It wasn't you much rather watch the Steelers tape than we would the Jets tape. But look, we don't take it lightly what we get to do. So we was just kind of having a little fun with it.
Well said. Jonathan Mason, I assume the Williamson trade was about UG3, but not after y'all's discussion on today's podcast. Do you think he's capable of more than what you saw on recent Jets tape? I would say it was in large part response to UG3's injury. I think it might be less about UG3's actual role on the team as being the dime linebacker, but I think because he suffered a second injury there, and who knows what's going on with that recurring back injury he seems to be battling, there was just no depth there, and that's what really facilitated the move in the first place. But in terms of Williamson's role, I don't know if it's going to be dime linebacker, because that's really not where Williamson's skill set lends itself toward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to that onion right there. I think UG3's health. I think just the fact that UG3 and Marcus Allen are very inexperienced at the position there. The fact that Avery Williamson does have a lot of experience on the field, especially wearing the green dot and probably knowing what he's looking at and being able to read keys and all like that. And just from not a lot to invest here on top of it. So why not get another experienced body? Now, we'll never know the answer to it, how much UG3 played into it. The fact that they did not put UG3 on IR this past week probably a decent sign, but we've said that before, and then the next week the guy goes on IR. So I think it will be a kind of a telling week when it comes to UG3. Look, I mean, you're at the point with UG3 right now where enough's enough. You got to start getting this guy on the field at the bare minimum just to get him on special team snaps. If not, maybe he's not the kind of late round steal that maybe most thought he would be.
Well, I think the talent is there. I just think the health may not allow it. Those back injuries, it may be something he's always dealing with. And this guy's played like 42 snaps this season, and that back's already flaring back up. That's probably not a good sign for his long-term health. Even if he can return in a week or two, it's just going to be a thing where you can't really trust him to play a month at a time because that back just may flare up one week, and then you're kind of putting a pinch for that particular game. So, yeah, that is definitely a concern there. We'll see, though, on Williamson. Good depth at the worst-case scenario. Jay Vega, what do you guys make of Ben and receivers indicating that they were playing backyard football? Are they saying the plays called by the OC were not working, so they had to improvise, and that's not good? Dave, I'll let you take this one because I'm sure you have some feelings about the thought here.
I think more than anything, look, you're running a lot of hurry up in there as well, too. So I think you take a look at this at halftime, and then, obviously they came out and they ran a lot of empty sets in the second half there. And I think it gets to a point where it becomes kind of matchup orientated. And when you're doing it on the fly there, how much did they actually, here's the question for Randy on Thursday would be, how much, did you kind of have a fallback plan to kind of go to something similar like this? Did you think that maybe you would see enough cover one kind of man blitz heavy situations that caused you to kind of replicate. And look, there's only so many reps you get in practice, so much time you get in practice to work on things anyway. So then obviously what Ben's Ben's off on Wednesday, and I look at it as, okay, look, go out there and look, we need to do what we're doing is not working right now whenever we're moving to football. We need to try to
Mm-hmm.
keep them in a certain package on the field, kind of increase our chances to see, maybe to play man across. And on top of it, when you spread a team out like that, they're less likely to blitz on you. They have to identify a lot earlier, pre-snap, and then, how was it every play that he did? Look, there's some plays where one side of the formation just did not know what's going on. I mean, is that really a play, or is that just your Coke bottle top? Once you go down to the stop sign and dig inside kind of thing. I don't view anything what happened on Sunday as a poor indicator against the OC or anything like that. I think if anything, it's a positive thing, because most offensive coordinators probably say, no, I'm calling the plays because I want full credit for it. But to give total autonomy to the quarterback like that, and as Alex and I talked this morning on the podcast, one of the biggest things that I think we've noticed this year is Ben's ability to read and adjust on the fly with just some of his own stuff there. So, do we know how many plays it was? No. Was there probably a lot of the hurry up stuff and him giving hand signals and just going off of what he saw across from it? Possibly. But I don't look at that as any indicator. Look, it's a group effort right now on the offensive side of football anyway. With Matt Canada, it's almost like a Borg offensive coordinator, if you will.
Yeah, I think you said that unbelievably well, and those are all things we discussed on the podcast today, from the Ravens' chaotic approach, that it was better to put that in Ben's hands, and it was working. And if you're an OC, you kind of leave your ego at the door and just let Ben do its thing, because it was working. And Ben's a Hall of Fame quarterback, super cerebral, and so if it's going well, then you just kind of let it be and let Ben do his thing. So I'm with you.
And look at what the plays were. I mean, there were a lot of short passes in there. His average yards per completion was like 4.25, I think, past line of scrimmage in the second half, and that was on a large amount of passes. Obviously, his average yards or average what am I trying to say? Average yards per completion distance goes on that. Now, his average intended yards was a lot longer than that, but once again, he didn't complete any deep balls in this game. And as I wrote earlier on the site, thankfully 3 of those resulted in pass interference penalties. And there's a lot of hidden yardage, whatever you want to call it, inside of there. So, I think they did what they had to do to get out of the stadium with the win, but by no, there was a lot of rub routes, pick routes, if you will, off of that on either side in there, and a lot of it, I think Ben was predetermined snapping the football.
Yeah, absolutely. But it all worked out, and you gave Ben the keys, and it worked out well. So yeah, guys, be sure to ask questions. I see one from Red Sliv here. He says, hello, I have a question. Okay, we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, if you have a question, feel free to answer it in the chat. Next up here in line was Double HH with more of a comment than a question. Says, Victory Monday, gents. Let's let the old guys on O&D have a coach-made bye week and start some young players to give them more confidence and depth ability come playoff time. We just ran a gauntlet. That's a nice thought, but you're going to go into every game like you're going to lose it, and you're going to play your guys, and just hopefully you build a big lead on Dallas like this team could and should, and then you can play your young guys to maybe finish that one out in the fourth quarter. But you can't take any team lightly in the NFL, even the Cowboys, dealing with all the injuries and strife they're dealing with right now.
There is no such thing as a trap game. There is no such thing as a trap game in the NFL. There's not,
Yep. Right.
Any given Sunday in the NFL.
Some people here in the chat, Ben, Robert, C. Bizzle, Samantha here, and with the rest of the Steelers Nation, so I appreciate that. Thank you guys for being here, hanging out with us till 8 p.m. tonight. We're here every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Next question comes from Dennis Sheridan. Happy thumping the Ravens Day, Alex and Dave. How would you respond to the thought that now the only upcoming Bills, Colts, and Ravens games are the ones that will determine if we win the conference? I don't really think a lot about the long-term stuff like that. I just take it one game at a time. I know that is super cliche and very coach speak answer to give you, Dennis, but I can't think about the Colts game several weeks from now, the Thanksgiving rematch versus Baltimore, I'm just thinking about Dallas and just trying to stack as many wins as possible right now.
Look, we do preseason record predictions because people demand that we do preseason record predictions. Uh, when you get into week to week type stuff, it's just that because I mean we see across the league how injuries can reshape a team in a heartbeat. Just look at the Ravens this past week. Just look at the last couple of days what the COVID has done on top of. You got now what's going to happen to Marlon Humphrey this week
Right.
with them. They're already saying because of what the Steelers did to them would spread them out, kind of expose the idea that they're short a corner over there, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're actually, if that's the case, then they're short two corners over there. If Marlon Humphrey can't play
Well,
by
he won't play this
Sunday,
weekend. Yeah, he's out this weekend.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, well there you go, and then you have Ronnie Stanley. You lose your one of the top, if not the top tackle in the league. You lose him, so you just got to go week to week with this thing, and you can't worry about 2 weeks from now what this team's going to do. You just got to go into the next game, win the next game, and then start focusing on the one after that. Is my opinion.
Yep, especially in a season like this with all the craziness that every team and every sports league is going through. Kevin Ball 16. Hey Dave and Alex, love the podcast and keeping my Twitter nice and fresh. Thank you, Kevin. Will the Steelers move Hayward and Oluwalu to IR since it's only a 3-week window? Hayward almost certainly not. I doubt it on Oluwalu. That's more possible than Hayward, but I think that both are expected to be fewer than a 3-week absence, and so I don't think that's going to be the move unless they really need to open up a roster spot.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Hayward, MCL sprain with Tyson Oluwalu is at least what the latest I think is from Jerry Dulac. I mean, we'll see. I mean, is it out of the question? I mean, I guess it depends on the grade of it. Blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. I think even Dulac put in his tweet, not that it's the hard fast, Bible when it comes to that, but possibly missing 2 weeks. But if they think there's an outside possibility that they definitely have him in 3 weeks, then I wouldn't think that they would put him on IR. But we'll definitely see by the end of this week.
The fact that they can promote and elevate players helps with not having to put guys on IR to create roster spot openings, so hopefully they can avoid it, but we'll find out later this week, like you said, Dave. Daniel Mazur, do the Steelers match up well with the Chiefs? I mean, it's going to be a challenge for any team. There's no team that really matches up incredibly well versus the Chiefs on paper, but the Steelers have a great pass rush, a really strong defense, and they're doing a better job against some of these mobile quarterbacks than a lot of teams. So, well is a relative term, but they probably match up about as well as almost any team you can imagine right now.
Mm-hmm. I think the Steelers offense matches up good with. I think both offenses match up fairly decent against each other's defense.
Right, right. It's just which defense is going to make that extra play
Mm-hmm.
that turns the tide. James Ross, the play where Oluwalu got hurt. I like that motion into 21 for the Ravens. Running start for the lead blocker. Have the Steelers done this yet? I don't believe so. Not with a lead blocker or fullback type. Granted, Derek Watt's barely been healthy this season, unfortunately. But yeah, the Ravens in the pre that motion is among the most active in football, and they will motion the heck out of you. And you saw that on that play where Patrick Ricard, the fullback, really took a low blow. Legal. I'm not mad about it, but that was a nasty shot Oluwalu took, unfortunately.
Yeah, guys, remind you a little bit of what was it last year when Rosie Nix, was it last year when he got the Bengals, or was it the year before when he got the Bengals? Was it the Bengals linebacker that he?
Nick Vigil, was that it?
Yeah,
Vigil?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ricard had one on Vince Williams later in that game, that one that Dobbins bounced right side. Ricard is a nasty fullback. So 111 people in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. That's fantastic. A really good number for us. We appreciate that here on this Monday. Double HH, what happened with the Ravens left tackle? Is validation of the Steelers contract negotiation methodology. Yeah, point taken. I don't know if that's really the reason why they do it, but I hear what you're saying. Judas Booth, why did the Ravens have so much success running the ball? For a lot of reasons, they were on the field a whole lot. The Steelers' offense in the first half was off the field, and so they could not do their ball control possession offense. It certainly helped out the defense over the last month. No Oluwalu, the mesh charge, where they were dedicating an edge rusher, Dupree or TJ Watt, on the quarterback. So if he gave it to the running back, they left you only 10 to defend the running back as opposed to 11 like normal. And the Ravens just have a good scheme with talented players, and there's a reason why they were the number one rushing attack in football coming into this game.
Yeah, a couple guys got turned. Yeah, I haven't made it. I've made it through, I think, 20 4 plays on the all 22 right now, so I got to wait. We'll have a little bit more on that when we get together on Wednesday for the podcast.
K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Any chance they will bring in another veteran defensive lineman, Dontay Poe or Daniel McCullers? Possibly. No on Poe. McCullers is possible. Somebody that knows your system for a short-term thing, given the injuries to Hayward and Oluwalu appear to be short-term. So I would not be floored if they poached Daniel McCullers off the Bears practice squad. Wouldn't love it, but would understand it, and I think that makes some level of sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't love it, but I would understand it as well too. Poe, Alex and I talked about him on the podcast this morning as well too. Look, Poe is a guy I really liked coming out of Memphis during his draft year and all like that, but just never developed to be a player. And if he's overweight like they say he is right now, and if the Cowboys are already cutting bait with him at this point, that doesn't look too terribly good. I mean, obviously never say never, but I don't think that's the kind of fit that they're looking for right now, especially if they think Oluwalu is going to be back in the near future. It'd make much more sense to go and get a guy like Daniel McCullers for a couple week Band-Aid and then go from there.
Right.
Or who knows? Well, look, we'll see what they think about Carlos Davis. And people keep forgetting about this kid. And overall, it was a little bit of a tiny shock that he ended up making a 53-man roster, right?
Right. He beat up Big Dan.
Right. So there's something there. Whether or not we'll see that something in the next couple weeks be interesting. We'll see.
It will. And with Poe, by the time he would get his weight down, you're healthy, and then Poe has no role. So I just don't see the value in that. BY, hey, Alex and Dave, I'm a Steelers fan from overseas here at Turkey. Just want to say hi and appreciate your great work. Thank you so much, BY. Appreciate you.
Turkey.
You hungry over there?
Yeah. Thanksgiving is my favorite. I always say this every year. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday when it comes to that. But yeah, glad to hear. What time is it over there in Turkey?
It's got to be early in the morning. I don't know the time zones for Turkey, but thank you for being here, BY. Aiden Frank says, "Go Steelers, go Steelers, Aiden." Captain Spartan 04 here again in the chat. Familiar face. Now, since we got the middle linebacker depth with Williamson, do you see the Steelers adding another rotational D lineman with Wormley on IR and Hayward getting hurt? Again, they could poach someone like Big Dan, but given it's a short-term thing to both those guys, I don't see the value in trading for somebody of significance. So you could see a minor roster move there, but not to the degree of making a trade the way they did for Avery Williamson. Derek Wilson, the play shortly after the penalty where Lamar ran towards the sidelines and then walked up the edge of the out-of-bounds line for another 2 yards before finally stepping out. Don't know if there's a question associated with that, but just on Lamar sideline-related commentary, Cam Hayward not happy with the officials calling him for the personal foul on hitting Lamar on that first drive, and rightfully so, or second drive, I should say, because that was just a bad call by the officials.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this morning too, and I think I know the play that that person's talking about there because later on in the game, Robert Spillane along, that look, you don't want to get hit, get out of bounds. All right? Right. If you want to pull that junk where you act like you're trying to get another tippy toe for another 2 or 3 yards, act like you're running out of bounds, then don't throw the flag when it's kind of borderline. Sideline situation like that because you can't have it both ways. You can't protect the quarterbacks and then have the quarterbacks act like they're running out of bounds and then tippy toe up for an extra 5 yards.
Right, and I think Lamar was mad at himself on that play because he realized that no one actually touched him, and he kind of went out of bounds, and he was like, I could have gotten more on that. So yeah, it's just a bad call, and if, like you said, Lamar wants to play those games along the sidelines, then you're going to get hit. That's the byproduct of doing it, and that's.
I'm all about protecting the quarterbacks and them being mobile and that the facet of the game and all, but. Look, they get along that sideline. If they're not out of bounds, that means they're inbound.
And you can hit them, right? Yeah.
Right.
You see Cam's tweet here. If he's given the chance to go out of bounds and doesn't take it, what am I supposed to do? I made contact while he was inbounds. Mind-boggling. Could not agree more with that assessment. Where are we at here? Brenton717. Hi, guys. Any thoughts on the 3 outside linebacker formation that was used on Sunday? Is this something that the Steelers use often? No, this was pretty much brand new, and there were definitely a couple different personnel wrinkles that I think you have to have when you play Baltimore. You got to show them something new, and so this was new. Tomlin said without Mike Hilton, and then shortly into the game without Oluwalu. That kind of made them change their hand and do some different stuff, and so they used that 3-5 look quite a bit, and I think generally speaking, a decent level of success.
You charted that already, no?
Yeah, I don't have the. I just finished my charting here, but it's like around 10 times they used it. I would
Okay.
say. So a decently healthy amount, and they dropped in the coverage a lot. But Highsmith got the interception. I think that was off of that 3-5 look, and so I like that wrinkle. They did some off ball stuff with Cam where he was lined basically up like a linebacker. They even did I think it was a 1-3-7 quarters formation with Sean Davis getting a random snap in there on a third down play. So a couple different wrinkles. Obviously, not everything worked. Baltimore ran all over Pittsburgh, but I like the approach to do some new stuff and throw some new looks at Baltimore. Let's see. Andresa, hey guys, a bit of frustration on Hollywood Brown's part post game. Can you remember the turning point in Antonio's tenure here, and were there any red flags in his pre-draft analysis? Thanks. I can't remember if there really were anything, and I know Hollywood was not happy with his use in that game, tweeted about it, but I don't really pay attention to a lot of those things, Andresa. Judas Booth, is Bugs better than Big Dan McCullers? Yes. He had a rough first half, but he finished that game on a really high note and had that critical tackle on that 4th-and-3 draw by Lamar. So that was a great play there for Isaiah Bugs.
Real good job of him controlling the lineman there and then making sure to flash one way and then back the other way and then fill it.
Yeah, some two-gapping against a quarterback.
Right.
Not something you do very often, but a
Right.
really important rep there. Justin Puthin, not trying to accuse Cam of anything, but do you guys think Cam was faking or overplaying his injury to slow down the Ravens? He says the first time. I think he was just tired the first time, and I think he was legitimately hurt the second time. And I just think that that slowing the Ravens down was kind of just an accidental byproduct of that.
Go listen to my thoughts on the podcast this morning about that. I'm almost wondering maybe if Cam be up for an Oscar.
You got that tinfoil hat on too tight.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't know for sure, and I don't, like I said this morning, I don't like to make light of, if someone ends up being injured and all like that. But maybe it was a cramp. And if you've been cramped up like that before, you do need a couple people maybe to help you off the field like that, though. But the thought did cross my mind.
David O with a super chat. Our own David O. Let's go, people. Don't be shy. Ask away in super chat for Save and Alex. I assume that means Dave, but point taken all the same. Thank you very much for David O being here in the chat, being a good cheerleader for us. Let me scroll back up here to where the questions were at. I'm losing my place here a little bit. Scroll back down through all the comments. PB Snell Sr. says, just hanging out, no question. Thanks for the information. Thanks for being here, PBS Snell. James Ross with a good comment talking about Randy Fietner. Part of being a good leader is knowing when to get out of the way, not worried about Randy. Well said, James. Jason, thank you for being here. Tyler Moore, if the Steelers stay relatively healthy the rest of the way, what percentage do you give them to end up with the number 1 seed and a much-needed bye? I'm not good at some of this stuff, Dave, but I would say relatively healthy with that schedule looming. It's not that challenging. I don't know, 60%?
Yeah, I'd probably even put it a little bit higher than that right now. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule right now, assuming they stay healthy. You got a lot of a lot of qualifiers in there, but these next 3 games obviously shape up real nice for them, and then you have the rematch against the Ravens. At least you get them at home. In that situation, hopefully you'll be back fairly healthy in that scenario, and then obviously got a tough later game in the season against Buffalo and another meeting against Cleveland. I think you can beat those guys if you have full health. So what's Kansas City going to do? I think that's the biggest question there. Can anybody do the Steelers a favor and knock Kansas City off? So, I mean, to be the number 1 seed, I mean, I would put up there probably around 70, higher than 70% right now, 74, 75%.
KC, the one team that really scares me in terms of competing for that number 1 seed right now. 124, 127 people in the chat. So be sure to give offer a super chat if you want to have your question be guaranteed to be answered, because we probably will not be able to get to every single question given the number of people here. We are thankful for that, but just cannot do that for time constraints purposes. Where I keep losing my place here with some of the super chats.
You got a big stream going tonight, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Both of us. Mark Leslie says, "Say it, Alex. Your money on Steelers winning it all. I should just need to say it all so you don't have to super chat me because I feel bad for that, Mark. But hey,
He's trying to buy. He's trying to buy your words, isn't he?
I can be bought, so yeah, that's a good approach, Mark. I am definitely able to be bought here. So they're playing really well, man. And I feel like if I say it, I'm going to jinx it. So I'm almost scared to say it out of the reverse jinx side of it. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh, John Harbaugh blaming the no call of PI for the reason for the loss, having more Steelers bias. I thought Minkah Fitzpatrick was going for the ball. How did you guys see it? I saw it the way you saw it, K. Jackson. I think Gene Steratore, former official, saw it the same way. Both guys going for the football, clean, no call on that play, rightfully so.
Could you imagine Mike Tomlin saying some of the stuff that Harbaugh says after games?
I like Harbaugh, but he kind of makes it hard to like him because he always complains about this stuff.
Whine, point to the hat after the game, and
Right.
point to his head after the game, and all like that. Like I said, it wasn't even close. I mean, wasn't even close. And the choice of words protect our players, and talk about the way the words he chose. That he is not nowhere close to wordsmith that Mike Tomlin is at all, and it really took away because look, I mean they played a great game,
They did.
Why don't you, the biggest thing that ended up hurting the Ravens in that game is one Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's the one that hurt them in that game the most with the turnovers and not holding on to the football and all like that. So sometimes you better take a look around you and take care of your own kitchen. But yeah, I didn't like how he handled post game.
Red Sliv, what do you think of Deontay Johnson? I think he's a really talented player, a really exciting player to watch with great change of direction ability, great quickness, ability to make guys miss in the open field, punt return ability, a very prototypical talented X receiver who unfortunately has had a lot of nagging injuries and a little bit of inconsistent hands. But the talent is overwhelming with Deontay Johnson.
I think he's going through a little frustration period right now. I don't think this season's gone. I know it hasn't gone the way he wants to. He's getting nicked up here and there, and obviously, you got so many weapons on offense and distribute the ball. I'm not saying he's unhappy, but I just think that a little bit of frustration is starting to show through. And then you go down the side on that one deep ball down the left side, and probably could have called holding or pass interference on that and didn't get that call, makes you even more frustrated, know. So I would say probably Deontay Johnson, of all those receivers right now, he's probably the most frustrated of the bunch.
I agree. David Gaines, good evening. Do you think the Ravens' productive run was due to their bye week to a certain extent? I'm sure that played a role, but as Tomlin would say, that's not an excuse. I think the Steelers own their own injuries, their own approach, and the Ravens are productive in the run game against basically every single team. They were to an extreme extent against a very good Steelers run defense, so that's not the only excuse we can make for it either, but I wouldn't put the bye week is low on the list of reasons for why the Ravens' running game was so successful versus Pittsburgh. Let's see here. Next question. C. Bizzle, Nizzle. Anything on tape stand out that gives you an impression of how the defense will hold up against Zeke? They should do well. I mean, Zeke's a really good back, but that Cowboys offensive line is just so beat up right now. And I know the Steelers are some injuries too. We'll see if Cam and Oluwalu can play, but still, they should be able to stuff the run, I think, pretty well versus Dallas.
I was looking at who's the quarterback for them this past weekend.
Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, bless you.
You can get that at Olive Garden, I believe, the Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, side of breadsticks.
Endless
with that,
breadsticks,
right?
Yeah.
The average completed, I wish I had it pulled up right now. The average intended or average completed yard distance was like under 3 in that game.
And they got some weapons at receiver, too. I mean, it's not like they don't have anyone to throw to. They got Gallup and Cooper.
I'll pull that number while you
CD.
take the next question. I'll pull that number up for you here.
Comment here from Jason Bodine for Dave saying that you're like Mel Tills, another reference Alex won't get, and that you may stutter, but when you're talking talk stats, tight ends, pulling guards, it's like you're singing and we hear no stuttering. I do not know who Mel Tillis.
Mel Tillis.
Tillis.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were compared to a WWE manager whose name escapes me last week, and now you're Mel Tillis, another guy I do not know.
Well, there we go.
Mike Adesso says, when's that wheel route coming, Dave? Dallas looked primed for it this week. It's coming. one of these weeks.
It's coming. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's coming enough that once it comes,
Yeah.
it'll be a letdown because I will have said it so many times that people say, "Well, you call for it every week." 2.4 yards completed air yard distance for Ben DiNucci. His average intended yard distance was 8.1 yards down the field. So the gap between those is a monstrous 5.7 there. So I can't wait till I haven't gotten into any of his tape yet. Be interested if he starts, man. Whew, huge advantage, and I think that's why there's not a line right now on Steelers Cowboys. I think they're waiting to see which of the quarterbacks might start there. Not that Andy Dalton puts the fear of God in anybody, but he's obviously got a lot more experience against the Steelers defense than a guy like Benucci does.
Quick reset here because we have 162 people in the chat. So that is, I think, a record for this live stream. If you're new to the live stream, thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us. We're here till 8 o'clock every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Alex Kazora. That's Dave Bryan, answering any and all of your Steelers questions. You can ask in the chat or super chat us and have your question guaranteed to be answered throughout the live stream. So thank you so much for everybody who is hanging out with us on this Monday. Let's go to Rory Prunella, who says, how much do you think this new look motion offense would help Mason if he has to play at all this season compared to last season? I think it's helpful. In a lot of ways, I think it's going to help your run game because the motion is most often associated with the Steelers' run game right now, and that probably takes some of the burden off your quarterback. So would that solve all of his ills? No, but I think it would help him the way it helps Ben and really any quarterback.
Yeah, look, and here's one thing we haven't seen this team do with it is throw off of it much, which obviously you're not going to do that a lot. But, the last commenter that said the wheel route, when it happens, it's going to happen. And if it connects, it's gone. It's gone to the house. I'm telling you. They ought to be slowly start trying to build some stuff. Look, we've seen a little bit of red zone stuff, I think, with it, right? With Connor and whatnot, using it that way. I think it's obviously that you want to keep some of that stuff in your back pocket when it comes to maybe 2-point conversions, third, must have down kind of situations. You obviously don't want to put all that stuff on tape, but you just got to constantly keep building off of that. Show that's why it was easy to kind of predict what was going to happen after they took that timeout late, kind of reset. That timeout to me was the best thing that probably could have happened there. Kind of get, because they looked so discombobulated there, trying to get things spread out and Ben kind of makeshift play on the fly there. Take the timeout, go reset. And Tony Romo said, and I said it on Twitter, it's going to be something here with that with Chase Claypool in motion. Personally, I thought it was going to be something, maybe a tight end pass off of that, something that we really haven't seen a lot of. But they did what they did, and that's their bread and butter. Put Claypool in motion there and just hand it off to James Conner and in the end zone, nice and easy.
There you go. Pink King Colton W. What do you think of Terrell Edmunds' play this year? Better. He's improved. Sunday was not a great game for him, but I think his coverage has improved. His tackling has been really consistent, really reliable. He's missing tackles around 8%, which is a fantastic number for anyone, especially him. So I think we've seen gradual, not monumental, not anything insane, but gradual improvement with Terrell Edmunds' play. L.K. McCray, I know the Ronnie Stanley injury might make this a moot point, but they signed him to a mega deal during the season. Is the Steelers' philosophy of no contract negotiations during the season outdated? I don't think it is. I like the approach of when it's the offseason, we'll focus on offseason stuff like contracts. When it's football season, we're locked in the football season and not on contract stuff. I respect and appreciate that old school approach. Robert Washington, greetings, Alex and Dave. Who concedes a roster spot to make room for Avery Williamson? Who do you think is the odd man out? They have an exemption right now, correct, Dave, until Saturday?
Until whenever he passes and all like that. So, and look, the COVID rules and all, he's not, it'd be shocking, I think, at this point, for him to actually be on the roster. And look, I just looked at the list today and BJ Finney finally got, I think, reinstated. Came off of his exemption today, so
that was they might not 5 days on that.
Yeah,
exemption?
So they might not have to do it until next week. We'll have to see. I think the clock starts at the day that the player gets in town, though. So I guess it all depends what time maybe Avery got in today. Is Tuesday going to be actually his first day, or is Monday? So. a lot of that stuff we're obviously not privy to the information there. But when he does get when that roster exemption goes away, who will be the guy? That's a great question. Not knowing that the real status of a guy like UG3 makes it kind of tough. I imagine it might be one of those running backs right now
Yeah, I think
because
Trey Edmonds is odd man out. Because
right,
Derek Watt should play this Sunday.
you would think that Watt, he was healthy enough to at least dress.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good enough sign there. So if he does, I mean, you got one too many running backs right now. So that would, and look, I mean, you still got to make a decision tomorrow. I think by 4:00. What are you going to do with Stefan Wisniewski? So
Right.
that's something else that you got to think about there. So, yeah, I mean, it could go several ways. I think a lot of it could it might be health related. We'll see what happens with UG3 too.
Mr. ABS, Alex Dave, are you satisfied with the type of plays we are using to try to get McFarland involved? Seems as if we could use him differently, but it may be that he's trying too hard with this time. And the one snap, the one carry he had yesterday, I think he tried to do a little too much, tripped himself up and fell. He had a miscommunication on a delayed handoff on a draw a couple weeks ago. So,
Right, that hurt him.
yeah, I mean, I think it's just some of the little things like that. Connor's running well. I mean, there'll be a time and place for McFarland, but I'm not screaming at my TV to get 26 in the game right now.
Yeah, look, we predicted that he wasn't going to see much of any time this past week.
I think you did. I think that was your call. So credit to you for that.
Because of the pass protection and the way the Ravens like to send everybody out. Did I think he'd get more than one snap? Yeah, I thought maybe he'd get 2 or 3 snaps. I didn't think
you got one more than Benny Snell.
Yeah, he got one more to be. There you go. Look, obviously, I think you can build a little bit, but I think people. I think we even said preseason if he got something along the lines of 80 touches, that would be pretty monumental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will he make it there? Probably not. You're probably going to have to get him into some games late that you have some blowouts in, and hopefully that happens. He's not doing himself any favors by having some miscommunications when he's in there on top of it. So, and not having a lot of time to work on his pass protection. Look, I still think, though, you can use him and McLeod on the field on the same time that we've seen already a couple of times and then build off of that kind of stuff, too, like I have been talking about with those wheel routes and all. So, can you figure out a way to get him 2 or 3 touches a game? Yes, and maybe that's the short answer everybody's looking for here.
DSCNT Tomlin didn't look happy with Buggs' play. He made some plays at the end, but what is your take on Buggs as nose tackle until Oluwalu comes back? Yeah, it was a tough start for Buggs for sure. The All-22 probably shine a light on that even more, but he did make plays late, and I'll see what Tomlin said here. He's kind of the only choice. I mean, with Oluwalu down and Wormley down, the Wormley's playing really any nose tackle. It's really Buggs, and Mondo's played a little bit in the nose, but you just don't have a whole lot of options right now, so I think Buggs is your guy.
And Buggs is more known from coming out of Alabama as being a pass rusher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he won some one-on-ones, though, against Skur, and those were big late in the game. Nick Crippen, how do you guys feel about Jalen Samuels and his production? I don't. He doesn't have any, and I don't think he should see the field, really, at all, my opinion.
Yeah, as we talked on the podcast this morning, he's, he kind of worn out his welcome. What exactly does he do now? Never has been great in pass protection and recognition, not... Caught a lot of balls at North Carolina and all, but not really that great of a receiver. Overall, not a true running back. Jack of all trades, master of none. And yeah, I mean, you can't. You have those kind of reps in games like that. You can't drop footballs. And now that's 2 Ravens games in a row that he's dropped at least one pass in. Yeah, I've had enough of that T-shirt.
Yeah, and he's your receiving back, and he can't catch, so it's kind of a problem. Eric McDay says, P.S. Thank you guys for the Juju metal print. You're welcome, Eric. I'm glad you got it.
Those things are nice, man. Those things. Hey, if you haven't won one yet, and Alex and I are going to make it more of a concerted effort from here on out, the rest of the season, and probably on into the off season as well too. Try to give 1 or 2 of those away every couple of weeks.
Drew Wilson, will Bush be the reason we don't make it to the promised land? If they lose, I don't think it'll be solely because of Devin Bush. Does that loss hurt? Absolutely. Does it expose itself in some games like yesterday versus Baltimore? It does, but I'm not going to use that as the excuse, as the reason.
Nah, that won't be the only. No, that won't be singular reason. No.
Right. Alex Flores, what does Avery Williamson bring to the table and how do you play him? For me, he's just solid depth right now, and we'll go from there. But he brings a solid tackler, good patient guy against the run, good block shedder in the run game, working off offensive linemen, staying clean, um, decent processor, zone dropper, just all around, steady, consistent play, never too high, never too low, but is never going to wow you either, make a ton of big plays. So for me, he's depth behind Spillane and Williams. We'll see what the team does in a couple weeks.
Right.
Let's see here. Super chat came in. That was from David O. Young Whitey, hey, just got here, Alex. Don't know if you've already answered it, but what are your thoughts on the Williamson? And is there anyone on the team that needs to be traded? No, I don't think this team's going to be trading any assets away. They are in a win now type mode, and we covered Williamson a little bit earlier in the show, so you can kind of scrub back to those comments there. Kill shot. The Steelers do make the playoffs. How do you think the Steelers will play against the Chiefs? Also kind of addressed that earlier. I think the Steelers match up as well against Kansas City as anybody in football right now, but it certainly will be a tough task. Trying to find some new people here asking some questions in here. I'm Diabetes. Can we expect more no huddle or quick huddles when Ben calls the plays in the future? Every time he calls the shots, they move the ball. Really, when they run no huddle and quick huddles, Ben usually is doing that type of stuff. Will they do it as often as they did versus Baltimore? No. I think that was kind of a more rarer circumstance of that because the offense was being so inefficient and the aggressive blitz looks that Baltimore gives. But when they go up tempo, Ben is usually running the show. That's just common. Judas Booth, do you think Burrow will be a great quarterback like Peyton Manning? I do. Dave, what do you think about Joe Burrow and that big win over the Titans yesterday?
I like it so far. I mean, I've liked what I've seen from him so far, and obviously with what I saw on his LSU tape and all was impressive as well too. But how many times have we seen these kids come out and kind of have some success out of the chute, if you will? I always go back to what Ben Roethlisberger has said several years ago after whatever flavor of the year quarterback was at that. I mean, it might have even been Dak Prescott's rookie year, maybe it was before. I don't remember. But he said, "Look, come after these guys have been in the league 2 or 3 years, come ask me about them." So good so far. I mean, definitely something to work with there. Got a lot of confidence. I don't think he gets rattled that much. And in today's NFL, brother, I tell you, there's one thing I've learned in the last couple of years when it comes to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have got to be able to extend plays now. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they don't have to be extreme athletes, mind you. They don't have to be the Lamar Jacksons or the Deshaun Watsons, extreme athletes, but they've got to be able to Patrick Mahomes, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't have that in today's NFL, if you don't have a quarterback that can extend the play, I think it's going to be tough to win right now moving forward in today's NFL because of the speed and the schematics and everything that goes along with the game.
Agreed. That's no coincidence that basically all of the budding young stars at quarterback in football today, including 3 in the AFC North, are all fairly mobile. Talking about Lamar and Baker and Joe Burrow. Tyler Moore, as it stands right now, what concerns you most with this team, excluding injuries? For me, it's defensive communication. Still seeing too many coverage busts for a really veteran-type group. Devin Bush's injury, which I know you're excluding it, but just the fallout from that and defending tight ends and perimeter run games is a worry. But just the overall defensive communication, miscommunications that's leading to some big plays that's uncharacteristic for this defense is a worry of mine.
I still maintain that I'm not as based on everything that we said and coming off and giving up the yards on they gave up on the ground and all like that against Baltimore. The thing that still has me kind of a little bit worried has been in the deep ball still.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to start getting that thing dialed in. Can you imagine how potent this offense will be if that guy at a moment's notice can connect on the money with one of these guys against a cover one right out of his shoot in the game? He hasn't been hitting on these. When he's getting some calls on the pass interference, and he got 3 more yesterday for 55 yards. And don't discount that hidden 55 yards. They scored touchdowns on 2 of those drives that they had the pass interference penalties on. Those are explosive plays, man. I don't care how you want to chop them up. They were explosive plays. They will at some point in the playoffs, their offense, when you get into the playoffs in today's NFL, one side of the ball usually has to cover the other side of the ball for at least one game. In that one game, they're or two or however many ends up being that they need, they're going to have Ben pushing the football down the field deep. We got to start seeing Ben hit more regular deep passing. That's my biggest concern right now.
Fair point there. Super chat coming from LK McCrae, who says, "Great job, guys. Keep up the great work." Thank you so much, LK, for being here, hanging out with Dave and I. Let me scroll back up here. Find that question I was going to ask about. I just lost my place here.
Avery Williamson's landed in Pittsburgh per his IG account. I don't know what time that was.
I think it was early because I saw him with a photo with the Franco statue in the airport. So got in, I think, a couple hours ago. That's a great. You ever been to Pittsburgh Airport before, Dave?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, you've seen the Franco statue, and I think who's next to him? Is it Ben Franklin? George Washington? I think
George Washington. Right.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Besides Cam Sutton, who would the Steelers most likely trade? McDonald, maybe. This comes from Mango Masher. I don't think they're trading anybody, and the Cam Sutton stuff was all. Let's not talk about the whole Cam Sutton freak out that fans had a week ago. James Washington would be like one name if you made me choose a name. Just a situational deep threat who, as we mentioned, is kind of losing some snaps in Pittsburgh right now that some teams could want to have, but I don't see them dealing anybody. They are in buy mode, they are in win now mode, and they are not in sell mode.
Right.
Let's see. Trying to scroll down through here. Thank you so much, everybody who has been here and asked questions. Just trying to find some more recent questions from some new faces. Slumpy Boy says, "I say we make another trade for a nose tackle." I don't know who that would be, and given the short timetable for Hayward and Oluwalu's injuries, I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. The last style bender, do you think Tua has been a top 5 DN this year? I don't quantify it in any particular way, but he has been fantastic. I've been super impressed with Tua this year, Dave.
Absolutely. He's been a monster, man. He really has. Really is playing well. Just more than anything, just stay healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing really, really good. He can clear them hips like nobody's business, man.
Yeah, he's got some of the best hips I've seen out of a defensive lineman. Sion Kea, when Steelers will lay an egg to a sub 500 team on the road. So saying, when will the Steelers play a Steelers game? And they'll have some chances. They're playing some bad teams coming up. I mean, that dud will inevitably probably happen this year. Every team has to go through it. We saw that with Tennessee yesterday, losing to the Bengals. But it's hard to predict, and hopefully that does not happen.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got a Cincinnati game in there. Just talk about Burrow and T. Higgins is playing good, and they finally learning how to use Giovanni Bernard right. I think over there. Their defense is banged up tremendous. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if I were to pick one of these 3 teams the next 3 weeks that they could potentially lose to, it would probably be the Bengals.
Yeah, there you go. See Bizzle Nizzle. Ben was having his elbow looked at one point in this game. Anything on tape that showed if there was a noticeable difference in his performance after that? I didn't see anything. Ben said he was fine. It was just a funny bone. Just landed hard on it. So I think he's all good there. Jeremy Bennett, thanks for the analysis. Alex and Dave, looking at the back half of the schedule, is there a game opponent from a scheme perspective that you've seen that gives you pause? I'd say Buffalo. I mean, obviously they played the Steelers tough last year without Ben. Clearly, but Sean McDermott, great DC, had some fantastic blitz schemes that are similar to Baltimore. They got a good offense, a strong run game, vertical threats with John Brown, and they had Diggs this year in the offseason. So that Buffalo rematch from last year, I think, will be a really big game to watch.
I would agree. He's a big boy. He reminds you a lot of Ben, doesn't he? Big boy quarterback, and he is not afraid to push the football down the field. That's for sure.
The question here from Bahia T, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. What do you think about the TJ Watt yelling contest, the exchange he had with Keith Butler? It's just football. I wasn't mad about it. I would be more upset if everyone was complacent about getting their butt kicked and rather than not being angry about it. So I like that fire from both guys, from Butler and TJ Watt. And that's a side of Watt we don't see too often, but I like and respect that someone can get angry about losing because it's not fun to lose, and I like the response to that.
Yeah, frustration, and you don't have to throw water coolers around, and you don't have to make a huge look. It was just it was a heated discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was trying to show his butt. I just think they had a minor disagreement there, and it seemed like they got happy in the same pair of pants they got mad in.
Yep, and I'm sure that happens a lot on sidelines. It just doesn't always get caught by the camera crew, and it did, and that's what happens there. Nightwolf, hey Alex, who do you think is a salary cap casualty for us next year? It could be multiple guys, unfortunately. I think Vance McDonald, though, he's played well this year as a blocker, but $5.5 million for a blocker, 31 years old, however old he's going to be, is not enough. So I think he's pretty much good as gone unless he takes a severe pay cut. Alex Flores is Washington done in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure where these. I see some comments about James Washington. He's not done in Pittsburgh, though, Alex. Grandino Bambino, it's going to come down to pick between Hilton and Sutton. Who do you pick between them, given potential price? I think the team will ultimately go Sutton because he will be cheaper. I'm a huge Mike Hilton fan. Love that story. UDFA, practice squad guy, going to get paid this offseason, but I think Cam Sutton is the more economical piece right now.
I'm not convinced they're able to keep either of them still.
What do they do with slot corner next year if both are gone?
I don't know, but
draft one?
The shape that the cap's in, I'm not convinced they'll be able to keep either one of them. But if they were to keep one of them, it probably would be Sutton because he'd probably be the cheaper of the two.
They're gonna go like a Bryce McCain route and sign some vet for a 1-year deal. Be your slot corner next year.
Might have to.
I hope not. This is from Mark Leslie, did you see the interview TJ did with Coach Cowher that aired before the game? I don't think I saw that. Did you see TJ and Cowher?
Yeah, I saw it. He wasn't on the screws. He needed a little bit of help on some of that trivia there.
What was the trivia? What were they asking?
Ask about sack leaders, and there was, I forget what the question was about. Chad Brown was the answer to one of them. I don't remember all the questions. It wasn't, it was more TV fluff than anything.
Gotcha. Mike Adesso, Barry's last punt yesterday, was that maybe the best of his career? That was a good punt. I can't remember the details of it, but that first punt was terrible, JV variety, and then Barry kind of picked things up the rest of the game. So that was obviously good to see.
Yeah, good thing they didn't trade away that any of next year's mid-round draft picks because they're going to draft a punter next year.
Yeah. You think for sure they're going to draft one or just do like a high priority UDFA?
They're going to draft one. They're going to draft a punter. I've said that for a couple weeks now. I still believe it.
I'm with you. Barry is not the long-term solution. Grandino Bambino says, did you know Steelers Depot did an article on me in 2011? Grendon Bailey. Did we do an article? I wasn't even part of the site. Did you do an article on
I don't know. Maybe we did.
If I type in Grendon, what comes up? Did we do is he a prospect at the time? Let's see what shows up. Yeah, we have something from him. What's the story here? 7th grader that wore a Franco Harris Steelers jersey to his middle school in Tacoma, Washington on Seahawks Appreciation Day and was sent home. All right. So that's a blast from the past from, 9 years ago. This is 2011, January 17th, 2011. So how cool is that? Thanks for sticking with us. That's, wow. So you graduated high school by now. That's pretty cool.
All that tells me is
you're very old.
I've gotten old now.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Any chance Kyle Trask is a Steeler next year? I'm not even in draft mode right now, to be honest with you, Bray. So, talk to us here in a couple of months.
I've started minor note taking on some, writing players' names down and stuff like that I want to get to, but nothing of substance really.
Any player at the top of your list? Some of these tight ends, maybe a Kyle Pitts.
Nah, just the guys that I write down are guys that are probably a little bit mid-round guys right now. I don't, once again, I don't really get into this until the Senior Bowl. We don't have time, right?
For sure. Vegas TJG. I wonder if Spillane is related to Mickey Spillane, that dude that made the old Mike Hammer show. I don't think there's a relation there, but he is nephew of Johnny Laettner, the former Heisman Trophy winner at Notre Dame. A little connection there. Dallas Quinley, can the Steelers go 16-0 this year? And we had this conversation on the podcast, Dave. At what point do you start entertaining seriously the idea of them running the table?
I think once you get past Baltimore the next time, I think then you start wondering maybe.
And Donald Nolan, last question here. We'll do one more because Mark just asked one. But Donald says, if the Steelers go undefeated and win the Super Bowl, are they the best team ever in NFL history?
Oh, Lord, depends on how they do it in these next several games. I think the how I think the howl has to play in there, not so much. Look, I mean, obviously, if you would be in the conversation if you just ran the table anyway. You'd have to be, right. I mean,
Yeah,
not even the
by
Patriots
default.
could have done that a couple years ago when everybody thought they were a shoe in and all. And God
Hmm.
bless the Giants for that.
18-1. Amen. Uh,
But the talk would be there. I think it would depend on how it transpires and all.
right. If they beat the Chiefs and they beat, whoever the top NFC team is, then that may be a different landscape than some other circumstance. But it's a good problem to have, Donald. Let's hope we're talking about it a couple months from now. And last question here from Mark Leslie. What does a usual day for you two look like, or is it always different? Dave, what is the life in a day of Dave Bryan look like?
Yeah, it's crazy on top of everything else, just because of the things that I deal with every day with the dysfunctions and all like that. But I'll tell you this: one of the best things about what Alex and I do is you just never know what you're going to wake up to, and
Or
you
go to
think
bed too, as yesterday.
right, right, or go to bed too. You just there's so much uncertainty with the news cycle and just there's no 2 days alike. You just never know what path you're going to go. You wake up thinking, okay, well, we're going to cover the Mike Tomlin press conference today, and then boom, something else happens, and you just don't know what rabbit hole you're going to go down. So I think it's just it's 18 hours of you always try to mix in, you tape in there as much as you can,
Hmm.
and just 18 hours of just following the team and NFL in general. And I highly advise doing it if you can.
Yeah, it's a lot of refreshing Twitter is my day. Just
Yeah.
seeing what's coming across news of the day. So that's going to wrap up tonight's stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Had unbelievable support tonight. I think we topped out around 165 people in the chat. So really thankful for that. Thankful for everyone who sent in a super chat. Be sure to like the video, like the stream, subscribe to my channel for more Steelers videos. Dave Bryan, as always, thank you for being here with us.
Always, and God bless everybody that joined us tonight. Thank you. Peace and love to everybody.
All right, Dave and I will be back next Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, hopefully talking about an 8-0 Pittsburgh Steelers team. They play the Cowboys this Sunday at 4:25. So that is all for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening and asking questions, and we will talk to you soon.